Welcome everyone to this special edition of March 4th edition of the Authors Forum. And it's my honor and privilege to welcome our guest author for this month of March, Coach Remi Ayodele. Coach Remi, you're welcome. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, I think you'll be the first author we're going to welcome the second time. And it has never happened before to have an author for the second time. And the
Wow.
reason is this. The reason why we are doing having you for the second time is because your first book, when it came out, and then that was when we invited you as the guest author. And then you wrote your second book, and you said the difference between your first book and second book is like night and day and night, and that stood out to me, and that's why we're focusing on the reflection factor, and because this reflection factor is very, very important. Yeah, I just like to start with a very short story. There's this young aspiring author, and that was really excitedly approached a seasoned author after a leadership conference. And he said, "Sir, I want a book that will impact the world. I have so many ideas in my head." He really was really excited that he want to write a book that will impact the world. So he approached this great leader and share his heart with the great leader. The experienced author just smiled and asked him a surprising question. And the question is, tell me, when was the last time you sat quietly and reflected on your life? And that was a real powerful question, because something I'm learning about question is, Jim Rohn said, answers give you information, but questions guide your life. So questions, especially great
Hmm.
questions, are guide to our life instead of just having information overload. So the young man looked puzzled when he had this experienced author ask him this question, and reflected. I mean, it was just like reflected. I've been busy writing. I already have 150 pages. The older author gently
Hmm.
replied, writing without reflection is like running fast in the wrong direction. You may produce pages, but not necessarily wisdom. Then he continued,
Hmm.
before my first book became impactful, I spent weeks reflecting on my journey, my failures, my breakthroughs, my mentors, and the lessons life taught me. When I finally started writing, the book almost wrote itself. The young man paused, realizing something profound.
Hmm.
The power of his future book was not hidden in how fast he could write, but in how deeply he could reflect. And that's the secret of many great
Hmm.
authors have discovered. The best pages are often in moments of quiet reflection. And this is why Peter Drucker said, follow effective action with quiet reflection. From quiet reflection will come even more effective action. So, and for authors, from quiet reflection often come the most powerful chapters. So this is why we having this, and this applies for both aspiring authors that are yet to write their book, and also imagine authors that have written one, two, three, four, five books. So reflection has a place in everything that we do. So we're going to be focusing on you, Coach Remi. Share with us and your what changed for you, because when I have two of your books. I have the first one and the second one, but there's something unique about the second one. It was really, in fact, the way you started it, the story was really, because I happened to read it before it came out. And when it came out, I bought it. I won't say because I was part of the first time readers and I got the book. Guess who the book is with? My wife. She grabbed it from me because I mean, the same, because I was privileged to read the preview, so I already know how we started, but when she saw how we started, she couldn't let go of the book. So tell us, what's the difference between
Hmm.
your first book and your second book? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Koku. Yes, the biggest difference I would say is the
Please,
vulnerability
can we hear you
that
very well?
came
Is
with
it
the
me?
story.
Yeah. If you can take your mic. Yeah.
Better now.
That's
Okay,
yes.
so
It's
the
much better.
greatest difference.
And my second book is the vulnerability that came with the stories. So, my
Mm,
first book, every chapter had stories, but they were
mm,
casual stories of everyday activities
I did with my children.
But after writing the first book and I was reflecting,
I was sharing it actually with
doing, and because my first book is practically connected parenting 21 ways to create timeless stories in the teenage years, my
mm,
children looked at me and said, Mom, come to think of it, if the teenager is not connected with the parent, they don't want to hang out with them.
so
mm.
it triggered
The second book,
Mom, your second book should have been your book.
So
they are
they
not
say your second book should
connected,
have been your first
will not
book.
even want to hang out all the 21 ways. Yes. That is what motivated me to quickly complete that book, to follow it immediately so it can go hand in hand. And so the vulnerability in the stories
Mm,
was those that prevent teenagers from even wanting to spend time with their parents, those
yeah.
obstacles that prevent parents from engaging in intentional parenting in the teenage years. So I knew I had to tell my own real stories in order
Mm.
to bring it alive. So that is the biggest difference between book one
Wow,
and
that
book
was
two.
awesome. Yeah. I mean, that was very profound talking about vulnerability. I went through that myself, and in my, I had the privilege of writing no book within 20 years after I wrote my first two books. And so I had a drought season for 20 years. I never wrote any book. So 3 years ago, I picked up back my book reading momentum, and I did 10 books in a row by the grace of God in less than 2 years. So one thing I learned is, and it was in the midst of that the Authors Forum started, actually May 2024. I was actually started writing the book, but one thing I realized is progressively, and as I begin to unlock the power of reflection, my books became richer and richer and richer. And I began to see the place of sharing personal stories, which is our superpower. And that really took everything to another level, especially when I was learning from leaders like Dr. Tim Elmo, that encourages us to share your stories. It was from Dr. Tim Elmo that I learned that there are four kind of stories. Your own story, which is number
Yes.
one, a true story that is familiar, and a true story that is unfamiliar, and then fiction. He said fiction is even better than no story. So, and the more I listen to him, the more I now realize I need to share my story, because there's something about your credibility, something you have lived out. It gives much
Yes.
weight to your content. And that's really reflected in my books, especially number 10, number 11, and the 12 to 1 that I did. So I can relate with what you're sharing. And so, what would be your advice and for a new author that is about to write his or her book, and on how to really, okay, what will you tell yourself? And yeah, what will you tell yourself? Let's say 3 years ago, what would be the best advice based on what you know? What will you have done differently based on what you know now? Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Koku. What I would have done differently is that in writing that first book, I would have been more vivid in the storytelling because it captures stories of my childhood. It also
Mm,
captures stories of my parenting, and the children might be more state of like the situation capture it in the telling of it. Told it more like a gisting type of approach. But in the second book, I took time to reflect lessons that each story carried with it. So you will
Mm,
notice that the chapters in the first book was more of, okay, these are suggestions. But
mm,
the chapters in the second book, these are proven facts based on these
mm.
repeated patterns, not just
Yeah.
from me, but from my clients, that these problems keep reoccurring as they are
Mm,
trying to navigate the parenting years. So,
mm.
in fact, I was thinking of a 2.0 for my book one to recapture those stories
Stories.
in milking out the lessons that each
Mm,
story actually brought out.
mm.
Thank you.
Wow, that's great. Now, I was just working on some models that we can give the audience today about reflection, just a practical guide, and for authors to write better books. I was just reflecting on that, and I was looking at, okay, how can we really make this uh, be more practical based on what I have experienced and what you have experienced. Because when we talk about reflection, it's a very powerful key that many people will have missed. Case in point, I realized that, you know, most some of the books that I wrote are product of reflection. For instance, I went to give a speech to Rotary Club, Upper Darby in Pennsylvania, not far from Philadelphia. That was in November 2024. Okay, that was November 2023. I went to give that speech. Was it November? Okay, November 2022. That's when I went to give that speech. So it was on, I want to share something on leadership, something that they can readily apply. So I call it 4 keys for effective leadership. So I give them an ESPN, which is an acronym. And
Mm,
and the E was effective communication, S, strong values, P, powerful why, and the N, network nurturing. But one thing I realized is that after I give that speech, I have an opportunity in another Rotary Club, which is a bigger one in Philadelphia. So I have a shorter time compared to this first one. So that was in January, 2 months apart. So I saw that upon reflection, I was able to do better in the second page speech compared to the first one and spending lesser time. And then after reflection,
mm,
that second speech became a book.
wow.
And that book, I have it right here, is 4 keys. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this with the audience is I want to get something across to you. This book was not produced for to make money. It was service. In fact, those two uh places, Rotary Club, I wasn't paid. It was I want to serve them. But
Mm,
because I was able to reflect, and I realized that this is a message, this is something that, because I saw that it actually helped them. In fact, one of them, especially in the second uh, Rotary Club, which is the Rotary Club Philadelphia, which is a bigger one, the lady actually gave a feedback that I really connected with them because I make sure that I relate it to them. So, what I want to
mm,
bring about right now is this: reflection has power in it. And in order to reflect, there are 3 questions in case you are listening and said, "Oh, okay, how do you really practice reflection?" There are 3 questions that you can ask yourself. And the first question is, what went right? Number 2, what went wrong? Number 3, what can I do differently? Coach Remy, share with us, how has this 3 question helped you to take your second book to another level compared to your first level book? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Koku. So, what went wrong with my first book was that I wasn't sure what the output was going to be. So, when I
Mm,
was engaging a publisher, editor, and publisher,
mm,
I was open to their feedback.
mm.
And unbeknownst to me, that was the wrong approach because
Yeah.
in helping me to edit it, they added some style that totally removed my voice of
Mm,
writing.
Mm,
And so when I got the draft back, it wasn't the way I talked, it wasn't the way
mm,
I expressed myself. And
mm,
so it took me several weeks to kind of do a good cleanup
mm,
in trying to recover my voice back into the structure of the book.
mm.
So that really taught me a huge lesson that you have to know the output and you have to know uh, because I liken it to a midwife and a mother who is trying to have a baby. The
Yep.
mother is in charge of the push when the labor is on.
Mm,
And the midwife is just there to cheer you on. They can't do the pushing for you. So for me as an author, I have to do my due diligence to push out that baby without the modification that does not look like what I want it to. So
mm.
that part really
So
made
how were you able to correct that in your second book?
in the second book. So
Yep.
when I was engaging with the new editor and publisher, I made that clear. I said, just correct my grammar or correct different things here and there, but leave
The
my
structure, the
context,
voice, and everything.
leave my voice as it is. And so that is what made the second book more like what I would say, more like how I would talk,
Yeah.
and
And you
without
don't
the
have to do any other adjustment on it.
I don't have to do any other
Mm.
adjustment on it. Yes.
Wow, that was great. That was great. I mean, that was a very good lesson for especially new aspiring authors to learn. And I believe they are getting that now because a lot of people, like, when you are doing your first book, you just listen to the person and the person want to seems to be an authority. But now that you know better, that no, this is, and that's why you are called an author. An author means the one that has authority. It's someone that is authorized, and nobody should be able to muffle your voice down when your voice should be heard. And that is the intent of the book. And that's the intent of the book. That's why there's a difference between a writer and an author. I never knew this before. I thought they are the same. They are not.
Wow.
Yeah, they are not. An author, and you can be an author of your book and now delegate somebody to write on your behalf, some ghost writers. But you are still the author in the sense that your name is the one on the book. You are the one that have the final say on what goes in the book. If anything happens, they're not going to go after the writer. They're going to come after you, you know.
That's true.
So that means you authorize everything on that book. But there are some people that they both write and they are also an author. I do both. I don't delegate my writing to anybody. I do all the thing by myself. So, but the main point we want to get is reflection is so helpful. Even if you have never written a book before, you can leverage the reflection factor. The question is, how do you do that? Now, I just shared a story to start up with you. And because we all have experiences, and I believe that's what you've been able to do. Because if you have never written a book before, no matter what your experience is, experience is not the best teacher, but evaluated experience. So there's a way you can reflect upon your, and this is what this experienced author was telling the young author. Because by the time you sit down, you really begin to, and this is what I'm learning, and Coach Remi, I'm studying communication at the moment, both in writing and in speaking. And I found that to start any kind of communication, either writing or speaking, you start with your right brain. Your right brain is the place of concept, the place of creation. And that's why, in writing book, you need to have what we call an idea farm, where you dump all your code, statement, anecdote, illustration about the book. That is not the time to do any editing.
Mm.
So that's what, at that time, book does not start with writing, it starts with creation. So at that time, you are not thinking about order, structure. It's what we call data dump.
Mm.
In fact, there's a name they call it. I learned that today in my course of study, and that name is very, very typical when you are doing anything on book writing. Because a lot of people just thought that, oh, just writing or presentation is
Mm.
you start ordering everything in your mind. No, it's not actually like that, because the most important thing is you want to just let your creative juice to flow. And that's why you have to create an idea farm where you dump all those things, just dump all those things there. It is after your right brain has finished its own work, then your left brain is the place of logic, analytical part, analysis. You can now start analyzing it and put it in order and all that stuff. Yeah. So that's why reflection is a powerful tool. So let's look at the first R. The first R is revisit your experiences. Great books often come from real life. And reflection begins with asking yourself, what lessons has life taught me? What mistakes shaped me? What victories inspired me? Your experiences contain stories, principles, and wisdom that readers connect with. Many first-time authors underestimate how powerful their personal journey can be. I think that's what really happened to your first book. You are saying it, but you are not really. It's not like the second book, because like I said, I experienced both of your book, and I saw that, wow, this is so different. In fact, this is why we have to invite you back. Tip for writers. These are the tips for writers. So you need to create a live lessons journal where you list meaningful experiences that could become chapters or story. Some people just thought that writing a book is waking up in the morning and just putting some things down. No.
No.
Dr. John Maxwell talk about filing system. He talks about he has a system of filing every day. He files. And I'm doing that myself right now. I have a book. Anything I see of interest, everything I'm learning goes inside that journal. And I carry it with me everywhere I go. Every day, all my study, all my reading, all my thinking goes into that book. So that was the first hour, revisiting your experience. And we have seen it and how you did that. So the second one is E, extract lessons from your journey. Experiences alone do not make a book powerful. Lessons extracted from experiences do. So reflection helps you move from storytelling to meaning. And so the question you want to ask yourself right here is this: what did this experience teach me? What leadership principle did I discover? What mistake can others avoid because of this story? Now, readers love stories, but they remember lessons. And that's the beauty of it. So we need the lessons, we need the story, but the story should communicate a lesson. So, Coach Remi, what lesson did you learn in between writing your first and second book? Thank you.
Thank you. So going back again to the storytelling. So once I
Yeah.
knew I had to share vulnerable stories, it helped. I had to reflect on the lessons that I got from each one of them.
Mm,
Especially there was one chapter where it was a clear situation where I was the one wrong in responding to my son. And
mm,
so it's a humbling situation as a parent, seeing that I took the wrong road in approaching that situation and being able to, correct the error, learn from it, and do differently next time. So that is the power of, instead of just telling it as a story, but milking out the lessons in there that will
lessons. Yeah.
make me a better parent, because a parent that wants to raise a leader must learn from their errors, must learn from their mistakes, and
Mm,
implement it to be better, because the window of teenage years is so short. And so if we don't course correct as we're going, the window will be gone and we will miss that opportunity. So the big
mm.
difference is, are you raising a leader or a follower? That will determine whether you're actually reflective on your parenting journey.
Wow, that was awesome. That was great. And I like the way you are able to extract that lessons from your journey. The next one is F, find the core message of your book. Reflection helps you discover the central idea that holds your book together. Many aspiring authors discover the central idea that holds their book together. And so, because many aspiring authors actually struggle because they try to say too many things at once. Have you
Hmm.
ever have that ever occurred to you before?
Yes, yes. So that book, I ended up cutting out a lot of things because it
You
didn't
mean the
go
first one
into
or second one?
the second one.
Okay.
Because it didn't go there was I still had some stories to tell, but it didn't fit into my connect framework, because the goal of that second book is how can you move from disconnection to connection with your
Mm,
teenager. And so
mm,
any story that did not align with that had to be put away for another book. Another thing that I had to also redo with that book, as I was reflecting to make sure everything fell inside connection, was
mm,
there's a stage that will have been my final chapter, and that will be walking alongside your adult children.
mm,
And my children are just young adults, so I don't have years of experience to really flesh out that particular chapter. So
mm.
the book ended where my children are, so that I can really speak from my own experience and
Yeah.
gain wisdom. So thank you.
Yeah, and that was really good. That was really good because when we speak about what we have lived out, it makes all the difference. It makes all
Yes,
the difference because there's credibility. Because the law of credibility says, your best message is the one that you live.
yes.
And that's so powerful. So, like I said, many aspiring authors struggle because they try to say too many things at once. But reflection helps you identify the one big message that your book should communicate. So the question to ask right here is, what transformation do I want readers to experience? And if readers remember only one idea from this book, what should it be? And that was why how your second book talk. Do you have it here?
Yes, it's right here.
Yeah. Can you show it to us so that they can see what book I'm emphasizing? And okay, the light is flashing it somehow. It's not really clear.
It's not clear.
Yeah, no, I mean the light is really, I don't know what happened to that. Yes, unlocking the parenting connect code. And I want to get that book because this book is going to really help you. And but the main thing we're talking about is the way and the manner where the book was written. Thank you, Coach Remy.
Thank
So
you.
a clear message makes your book focused, powerful, and memorable. So the next alphabet we want to look at is L. Learn from previous writing attempts. So I'm gonna suck this juice out from you now. Learning from previous writing attempts. If you have written one or two books, which you've done two books, reflection becomes even more valuable. And this is what we're gonna focus on today.
Mhm.
So the question is, what worked well in your previous book? Let's compare one and two.
Okay, so what worked well in my previous book is the vastness of the stories. So, like I said, it captures stories from my own childhood when I was still in elementary school, all the way from maybe about age 7, 8, all the way to me being a mother and having a daughter up to age 21. So it's very vast in the stories it captures. So you can imagine how many stories went into 21 chapters. And so, but the second book, it captured and focused on the teenage years, the struggles that parents face
Mm,
from the time the children approach adolescence into adulthood. So it's a more narrower window, and it was focused on my own personal experience only and those of the clients that I've had opportunities to mentor and coach along the line. So the
mm.
window of coverage is shorter because it was focused on the teen years.
Wow, wow, wow. That's awesome. So what feedback did readers give you on the first book and on the second book?
So it's interesting. I was speaking at a women's meeting, and some of the women, some of them bought my books. And within 24 hours, one of them texted me and said, Remi, I'm already halfway from one of your books. And I see that you're offering tools to see that motherhood is successful. So for me, it really brought affirmation to me that somebody is resonating with, show me where I'm going so I can navigate better.
Mm,
So because often it's hindsight that is 2020. So
yeah.
and she has younger children elementary age, and so her reading it is helping her now to map out as she's going on in the future. And during my presentation, one of the mothers took him and talked to me. See, Remi, I've also had, because in my book, I pointed out the fears that parents have about teenage years. And she said, yes, Remi, I already have those fears. Thank you for writing this book to calm those fears, that I don't have to navigate with fear, but I can navigate it with intention. So
Wow.
that is
Wow.
very affirming and confirming of what I wanted to pass across in that book.
Wow, that's so cool. Looking at what feedback you've been getting from your readers. Then next question is, what will you improve if you write those two books again, the first and second one?
Okay, the first book, like I said, I will put more flesh to my stories and bring out the lessons. The first book was more of a suggestion. These are activities to do to build relationship, to spend time with your children. The second book was, these are proven. Live through this because the window of time is short.
Mm,
Now, I'm preparing to write my third book. So I'm putting the lessons from that first and second book together. What I'm doing now differently is I am capturing more client feedback so
mm,
that in this way, even though I had clients all this while in the first two books, this third book, I want it to be as practical as possible because my focus is on the connectedness of raising leaders. And the third book is that way where I want parents to be able to pass the baton of leadership to their youth while
yeah.
they are still home. They don't
Mm,
want, you don't want to wait until they're gone. While they are still home, these are the things, the checklist for us to make them leaders that take responsibility even while still at home. So that'll be the difference between the experience of my first book, my second book that will be showing up in the third one.
wow, that's great. And I'm so excited that you're already working on your third book. So, like every book should be better than the last one. That's the purpose of reflection, and that every book should be better than the first one. That means our next book. I learned this from Dr. John Maxwell. And when you ask him, and for instance, is bringing a book out next month and receiving the return on your failure. And if
Mm.
you ask him that was his best book, he will tell you that that's his best book. Why?
Yeah.
Because that's the latest book. That means every book should be an improvement on the
Mm.
previous. For instance, I'm working on some new labels now. And one of the book I want to write is The Effective Communicator. Why? Because I've been learning communication since the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
I, and it just came to and I'm doing a class season 1 to season 4. It just came to a point that like I need to write a book on communication. I mean, what I'm learning. Because some
Yeah.
things I'm learning now that I'm applying, I'm getting results. And I said, no, this is good. This is making me better. So and that's how it should be, upon reflection. That's why we need to leverage the reflection factor, because every book should be better than the last one. Reflection turns past writing into future excellence. So if
Mm.
we want to attain future excellence, we have to embrace the reflection factor. Another thing we're going to go to is the alphabet E. Examine your reader's needs. A lot of people, they don't consider this. So
Mm.
I'll ask you this, because reflection is not only about you, but also about your audience. And because great author ask, what problems are my readers facing?
Mm-hmm.
What questions keep them awake at night? What transformation are they seeking? So your book becomes powerful when reflection helps you write with the readers in mind. So the question is, how do you gauge your readers' needs? Because you write in the parenting space. And so how do you gauge? Is there a way that you gauge their needs? And can you share that with us? And how will that benefit and aspiring or emerging authors? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Koku. So before I wrote my books, I had interviewed almost 50 women and gotten feedback on what challenges parents were facing and what was their dream and desire for their teenage children. And so that informed the topics that I covered in Avenues 1 to connect and also in conflicts to resolve. Now, when
Mm,
one of my readers, bitter readers, I gave her my book once it was published. She said, Remi, this book is excellent. However, what do I do before they become teenagers?
mm,
I say, what are you talking about? I'm focusing on teenagers. She said, Remi, it's true. because by the time they become teenagers, I don't want to, there's a window I might have missed, and I want to know what I need to do
Mm,
because um, I don't want a situation where I'm trying to now build in skills when they're already teenagers and their ways are already set. So I've been contemplating that. So I would have a section in my third book that would address the window of opportunity before the teenage years. Because one
mm,
another beta reader, she told me, Remi, your book is good, but you're assuming that everything went right in the years before they turned teenagers.
mm.
So, what are you going to do for those years before then? So, now the amount of two feedback is making me include the years before the teenage years in my third
Wow.
book so that parents
Wow.
can capture
So you
that
are
vibe.
thinking about writing on the year before the teenage years.
Yes, that
So
will make the
so
teenage
so
years.
is that a felt need from your target audience?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was good. That was a good one to really know what people are, and how you can align your writing to their needs. That's what it's all about. The next one is connect ideas and insight. Because reflection helps you connect stories, lessons, quotes, experiences, and principles. Suddenly, what once seemed like separate ideas become a powerful framework. Many
Mhm.
memorable books are built from reflective insights that later become acronyms, principles, and frameworks. So, how do you connect your ideas to your insight?
Thank you, Dr. Koku. So now that once you asked that question, it took me to my chapter on nurture. So I was talking about nurturing, that's meeting your teenager where they are.
Mm,
And in one of those topics, I had to refer to the chapter 2 on observe the iceberg because I noticed that the reason this conflict happened in this situation was because I did not look at the what was underneath the iceberg in that
mm,
situation.
wow.
So it's made it's made it clear to me that these are not isolated topics in my connection framework.
Mm,
They are interwoven together. So
yeah,
if you can marry all these three, that's why it's called connect. Like when you wear a bracelet, you want
yeah,
everything to connect.
yeah.
So it began to show me quickly that it's the connection. Then when I got to chapter 7, I realized, oh, if you did not identify the personality of the child in that first chapter, you're
Mm,
going to be parenting the wrong child the wrong way. So
mm,
identifying that personality helps you to navigate all these other acronyms until you get to that point where you can thrive together. So that is what made that book very cohesive in that all the acronyms, all the pieces of the framework are interwoven and interconnected as one.
wow, that's cool. There's a principle in that Jerry Weissman talked about in his book Presenting to Win about clustering. He said when you
Mm,
just start in the process of creation, brainstorming, concepting, you are doing a data dump,
mm,
and that you can now start seeing how those ideas are related. So we call it clustering. So
mm,
it is from there that you now begin to use your left brain to arrange everything logically. Yeah. So we've looked at different aspects. We're looking about the reflection acronym. Quickly, we talk about revisit your experience. That's what the R is. We've explored how to revisit the experience. And also we've talked about extract lessons from your journey. And then we talk about finding the core message of your book. And then the E, we talk about examine your readers' needs. Now we've also talked about connect ideas and insight. The next thing we'll look at is T, turn
mm,
lessons into practical applications. Because here, readers do not only want inspiration, they want application. And I learned this, Coach Remy, and I didn't start this early. To be real with you, I'm making an open confession. I'm talking about my uh I wrote 10 books in a row starting from I think June 2023. and up to last year, June, just like for 2 years, less than 2 years. So I didn't really start early. It was while I was reading a book and I saw a quote, and I think it was my 10th book or that quote. Yeah, it was my ninth book, the area code. And
Mm.
that quote just came alive to me. And if I can get that quote, I'm taking one of my book now to read that quote. In fact, it's so much really powerful that I was putting it in every chapter, and my editor then said, "Oh, you don't have to repeat this," but because it was for the first time I saw that I need to give a practical. So I now realize that what do you call it? My one of my mentors, Dr. Tim Elmo, came up with something. He said about three-ish, and he talked about fact for the head, point for the head, pictures for the heart, and then practice for the hands. So when I begin to look at that, and I begin to realize that okay, I haven't said that. Okay, this is the quote by Thomas Carlyle. He said the best effect of any book is that it excites the readers to self-activity. So that means any book you read, it should get you excited to do something.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, so that just came alive and stood out to me, and I begin to practically make it. So we have to turn lessons into practical application because readers do not only want inspiration, they want application. One day, President Abraham Lincoln, during the Civil War, he went to a Bible study during the week. So the pastor allowed him to sit in his study, so that he won't really be disturbed by the people. So when he was going on with his companion, and he now asked that was the Bible lesson, was it a great message? Yeah, it was a great message. So he now asked another question again. He said, what was his takeaway from it? He said, well, it was the theology was great. He said, but it was not really a great message in the sense that it didn't give them something to do.
Mm.
Yeah. And so, because there was no application, I mean, the theology was sound, everything was great, but it didn't give them something to do. Because when we give people something to do, that is when they buy into the book. So, because
Mm.
reflection allow you to ask, how can readers apply this principle? Because as an author, you need to be asking that question, how? Because every time you write a book, there are four things. And in fact, time will not permit me to share this from what we call the experience economy. There are four things you need to be asking, that where is the teaching in this content? There are four questions about content. That where is the teaching in this content? Number two, where is the interaction in this content?
Mm.
Number three, where is the connection in this content? And so you ask for the teaching, you ask for the interaction, then
Yes.
you ask for the where is the connection in this content.
Yeah.
you know because those things that are the things that people want to experience, in this. So, and this is very, very important. So, and what another question is, what practical steps can they take?
Mm.
So turning insight into practical step transforms your book from interesting to life changing. Because a book is not great except it changed a life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your experience with this? And could tell me quickly. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for asking that, Dr. Koku. My experience with that you will find in chapter 7, where I talked about parenting as a team. And there I was able to bring out how personalities relate even in parenting.
Yeah.
And I shared a story where our family took a journey, a long
Mm.
11-hour trip.
Mm.
And I was able to explain to them how each of our personalities came alive to make the journey a success. So I didn't
Mm.
just, in the beginning of the chapter, I told them the concept of different personalities exist. But with that story, I was able to paint the picture that this action taken by my husband represent this personality, this action taken by me represent this personality, and marrying it together made the journey successful. So when we can leverage each other's strengths
Mm.
as parents, we can know that we are raising the same child. So
Yeah.
it's about the child, not about what the husband wants or the wife wants, what the father wants, what the mother wants. But it's like a farmer now. You
Yeah.
have a plant you want to grow. It is not about what you like, it is what will make this seed to thrive. That will be
Mm.
the goal of your parenting journey. So that is how I took the concept of personality to that to come alive with a story that shows how you can show up as a parent on a daily basis in your family interactions.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Our next alphabet is I, improve through continuous reflection. Because writing a book is not a one-time activity, it's a
Mm,
growth journey. So after writing each chapter, it's good to ask yourself as an aspiring author, emerging author, that is this clear? That means you want to ask that. Is this clear enough for the
mm,
audience, for the readers? Is this helpful? Then is this engaging? So you want to ask yourself those three questions. A question of
mm,
clarity, and then also a question of helpfulness, because the main thing about a book is to help people,
yeah.
is to serve them. And then is this engaging? Because reflection is
Mhm,
how good authors become great authors. So I mean, what we are talking about is taking an authors from good to great. The same thing
yeah.
also applied to a speaker. So, how do you improve through continuous reflection? Because it's not just a one-time thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Koku. So, there are two chapters that comes to mind in my second book, and to make it engaging and clear enough. So, there is a chapter about embracing differences in culture between the parent and the teenager, and also removing the generational barriers between the parent and the teenager. So there's an almost an overlap between the two, but I was able to differentiate it so that they could understand. And so the engaging part was when I was on a podcast afterwards and they asked me about the book. And so sharing the cultural context sent the women laughing because they could totally relate to the lack of clarity in communication between the
Mm,
culture of the parent and the culture of the next generation, the teenagers. So that's how some lines of communication are blurry when we
mm.
begin to connect with our youth. So I was excited, or I mean encouraged, that it was engaging enough for them to laugh and relate their own stories that reflects just that
Wow, that was
concept.
awesome. That's what we call generational gap. So I will end up with these 2 points because we can open up for questions from our live audience. So the next one is O, observe patterns in your thinking, because reflection reveals patterns in your thinking and experiences. You may discover that many of your stories point toward a specific theme, such as leadership, growth, faith, resilience, mentorship. These patterns often become the unique voice and identity of your writing. So,
Hmm,
observing patterns in our thinking is also very critical, because you have to. I always talk about people about pattern.
hmm,
Pattern recognition is very important, then followed by pattern understanding, and then pattern creation. So those are the three critical things about pattern. So you have to first of all recognize pattern. Number two, you have to understand
hmm,
pattern before you now can create them. So what pattern have you observed in your writing, and through the power of reflection? Because reflection reveals pattern in your thinking and experiences. So what pattern have you discovered in your story point, and what kind of stuff do you gravitate to, that you see consistently in your writing?
Well, thank you, Dr. Koku. So it's interesting you said that because I think I was trying to share it at the beginning too, because I now noticed that my pattern was connecting during the influencing stage of your teenage years. So it
Mm,
was tending towards leadership at home. Like someone has rightly said, leadership does not start in the boardroom, it starts
yeah,
in your living room.
yeah,
So if we do not raise leaders at home, we cannot expect them to show up as leaders in their school, in their community, and in other areas. So essentially, I found out that most of my stories will always point to this is your window to make that opportunity count by being the exemplary leader for your youth in this situation or that situation. So I'm not just teaching like parenting, coaching, I'm teaching this is leadership time.
Yeah.
And there's a quote I have for that second book that said, teenagers are not testing your authority, they are essentially testing your leadership skills.
Mm,
So if you can hone in on your leadership,
yeah.
your teenagers will be well equipped for self leadership as well.
Wow. And it's very important. I think Ken Blanchard, one of his quotes that he often made, I came across the quote today in my reflection, and he talked about the main thing about leadership is not authority, but is influence.
Mm-hmm.
He said leadership today, and he said the main thing about leadership today, this is the way he put it. He said the key to successful leadership today is influence, not authority.
Yes.
And influence is all about leadership. It's not just commanding or correcting, and it has a different approach entirely, because it's people doesn't really respond to command,
Mm.
because command is something that it's most of the time people just when people yield by a command they see it as an obligation, but
Yes.
people yield to influence based on inspiration, and that is why it's very critical to really have an emotional intelligence to be able to connect to people and see what their needs instead of just issuing and pontificating like I normally call it. So the last key writer is navigate uh, forward with greater clarity, because reflection helps you move forward with direction. Instead of staring at a blank page, wondering what to write, as an author, reflection gives you clarity about what really matters. It turns writing from a struggle into a purpose-driven process. So
Mm.
the main thing here is just like either you've written a book or you're about to write a book. The most important thing is reflection will help you to navigate with greater clarity. So, this last point, before we open up the audience for question, how have you navigated forward with greater clarity in your second book and going towards your third book writing? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, in my second book, what informed my stories was the lesson I learned in overcoming the obstacles with my own children. So, if you read the stories, it's essentially me and that one child at one point or
So that reflection helped me.
the lesson and said, this is the lesson I learned. It's like saying, I'm putting a caution sign for you as you're approaching this intersection. Watch out for this. And this is how I have been able to navigate it. I hope it helps you as well. And so,
Mm,
when going through my third book, in fact, there's a chapter there where I said, visit your teenage avenue. And
mm,
visiting your teenage avenue essentially is what helped me, what shaped me, and what hindered me during those journey, so that
mm,
it will help you to create your checklist of what you need to equip your teenagers with before they leave home. So that
mm,
reflection is helping me to inform that chapter so that parents can really dig deep and come out on the top when they are preparing there. Because this is what I know. By the time they're graduating from high school, they've gone through a structured curriculum that the school
mm,
has curated. So I want us parents to also have a structured curriculum that every child, when they're taking their high school diploma in one hand, they're also taking parenting and leadership skills
in
in the
one.
other hand. That will make
Wow.
for a good celebration.
Wow, that's awesome. Because like I read somewhere, I said the greatest thing is, you there's no training like home training. If you leave everything to your teacher at school. I remember when I used to work in Salvation Army, we have an after school program, and
Mm.
the parent will act as if we're their parents. Oh, did you finish all your homework? I mean, it's like, they transfer. Oh, and the problem is that we only have little time with them. Out of those times, the kids they're gonna have dinner, and out of those times they want to get snacks, And out of those time, they're just coming, settling down. I mean, it's like, and they want to play.
Yeah.
So, and at the point, the parents say, okay, well, if they won't do their own work, they shouldn't come because they don't want to be responsible.
Mm.
Because we now let them realize that there's some other things that they need to learn, extracurricular things. That's why we call it after school. There's some life skills we want to impart to those kids. So, but we end up of finding a middle ground of still letting them do their homework and all that. And so it's a real thing. And to let them realize that parenting is a non-transferable responsibility. And in fact, we do have a parenting class too for them. For real. I mean, yeah, we have a parenting class. There's a man that takes it every Thursday night. He will even bring food and all that. So that parents can attend. Some parents will say, no, they are not going to parenting class. They believe they know it all. But from their life, they don't know it all. So let's open up Coach Temi and Dr. Yeti, their life. If you have any question for Coach Remi, and
Mm.
it's been a great time. We're just going through our first walk and second walk. And you can unmute yourself. And if you want to be visible, we can add you to the spotlight. And so Coach Temi is here. Let me add you to the spotlight. So do you have a question for Coach Remi? Thank you, Coach Temi.
Yes, I'm so excited about your second book. And I'm even more excited about the third book because it's going to speak to me. My kids are not in the teenage years, and I'm in the preteens and I have questions, a lot of questions. So I look forward to the third book. Thank you. But well done on the other books. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Coach Temi. I mean that's a real encouragement up there. And but Coach Temi, she came out with 3 books on a single day.
I know.
And guess what? She's working on some new title now. And this is why I like the Authors Forum. We like to celebrate other people's accomplishments. To me, I love it. So we're going to have Coach Deborah Holt for next month, April. And guess what? We're going to have a new author in May. Dr. Lisa, she just came out with a with a journal, but it's also a book. And guess what? A friend of mine reached out to me 2 days ago, Yannick X. He just came out with his first book. So it will be our guest author June Authors Forum. So that's one of the great delights that we do Authors Forum to inspire authors that listen, it's possible. You can do it. I'm on some people's neck now. So I want to tell you that Authors Forum is not just for show. It is where we showcase the work of other authors. So if you're an aspiring author, you are listening to us, you are watching us, and you are just wondering that, can I turn my book, um, uh, my dream book into reality? I want to tell you something that yes, you can. And we are here for you.
Mm.
We're going to take you by hand. So we have a WhatsApp group. In case you are listening to us, if you want to join the WhatsApp group, you can and put it in the comment in this YouTube section, and your if you can put your contact, and or you can and send it to my email wordsmith626@gmail.com, wordsmith626@gmail.com, and then just send me your first and last name and your WhatsApp number. We're going to add you to our WhatsApp group. Coach Remy, it's been a pleasure really being with you. Is there any closing comment you would like to share today with people?
Wow, thank you so much for having me. A comment I'll make to an aspiring author is this. When you write, it helps you to clarify what you truly believe about that
Mm,
topic. Because if as long as it remains in your head, it's like something theoretical. But when you begin to write, you begin to
mm,
ask yourself, do I truly believe this? And am I
mm,
implementing it? Because my books have become like my police officers, such
mm,
that if there's anything I'm not doing about or I'm not implementing my own book, it's always ringing in my head and say, Remy,
mm,
remember what you wrote. So
mm.
it helps me become a better parent.
Yeah.
It helps me become a better mentor. It helps me become a better coach because
Mm,
I'm living my own book and my own framework on a daily
mm.
basis. And with each
Wow.
child is different, so that is why we must keep going. This is
Mm.
not it's not a one-time thing. It's a journey on end. Thank you.
That's beautiful. So we focused on, thank you, Coach Remy, on the leveraging the reflection factor for effective book writing. And don't forget, when reflection and writing works together, your book will not simply inform readers, it will transform them. So engage the reflection and acronym and in your book writing experience. It works. Either you are an aspiring author, because you need to reflect. So when you reflect, you can bring your best into what you write, and then don't forget, even after you have written your first work, you can still reflect to make it better. That's why books have 1.2, 2.2, 3.2, 4, for real, for real. Because you keep growing and the books have grown, but you keep growing because you keep upgrading yourself. So next month we'll be coming to you with another guest author. Coach Remi, we want to say thank you for your time. Want to say thank you to the live audience. And thank you all so much. So next month we'll be having Coach Deborah Holtz, and in with I mean, she's gonna come up, and she has a book she will be sharing with us. But more than the book, I love to hear different people's style, what they have learned, and that will really inspire us to do more. Thank you all so much, and see ya next.